Hey folks, how you doing? Bill Allison here with Culprit Lures and X Factor Lures. You know, I'm sitting here around the house and I'm starting to prepare for my next tournament, and I started thinking about the previous tournament because the lakes are very close to each other, and I started thinking about what did I do on this lake that I could carry over to this next tournament. And it just so happens to be the winning pattern that I had for the big bass of the tournament. And what I want to share with you is a new bait that just came out with Culprit Lures, and it's called the Incredicrawl. Now during practice, something that I noticed was I wasn't catching any fish on any type of plastic on a shaky head. I was throwing another great bait by Culprit called the T-Rex and the T-Rex Jr., and I just couldn't get no strikes. So I went out the next day on a separate pattern on what I knew I was catching fish on. Well, one of the big key differences during the tournament day as opposed to during practice was the temperature dropped drastically. When we launched in the morning, it was 29 degrees and the water temperature had dropped 10 degrees. So I knew the morning bite was going to be very tough, especially with moving baits. About 9:30, I started to think, okay, I know they're hitting a shaky head. I just know they have to. It's a typical winter pattern. It's a pre-spawn pattern, and I knew they were going to be there hitting it. And when I started thinking about it, and I talked to my co-angler on the boat, he told me as well he could not get bit throwing any type of plastics. So what I did was I took the 3.5-inch Culprit Incredicrawl in Okeechobee color, and I put it on a very small shaky head with very light line. I used 8-pound test and about a 3/0 hook. Okay, I wanted to go as light as possible so I could get more action out of the bait. Once I put this on, we were catching them. I mean, we were catching them left and right. We were getting bit for the rest of the day, and it turned out to be a successful tournament. Now, just to tell you how we fished it, we were targeting rocky points, but not just rocky points. There had to be another piece of structure on that point, and that was laydowns or any type of brush pile. If you had those two combinations, the fish were there. And another key thing that I noticed, when I would pitch in there, I'd give it a couple shakes. If the fish, if I didn't get no bite, pick it up and throw it right back in the exact same spot, but maybe at a different angle or something like that. And then we were triggering the bites then. Also, with the bite from the fish, they weren't thumping it, and they weren't necessarily swimming away with it. I did have a few that would swim away with it, but the only way that I could tell that those fish were there was that little bit of weight. Okay, so when you start to shake it during this winter bite, and you feel just a little bit of resistance or a little bit of weight, that fish is probably there, and go ahead and set the hook. Worst case scenario, there's not a fish there, okay? Or if you don't set the hook, then you miss out on catching that fish, and that could be the fish that counts the difference between you getting a check and not getting a check. So what I've set up here is I've set up a little demonstration here to show you what this Incredicrawl looks like under the water. And this is the reason why we were able to trigger those strikes. Now, as you look at this Incredicrawl in there, look how unbelievably those pinchers are standing up. I'm not even moving it, and they're still floating like that. Now, if you give it a couple little wiggles or a couple little shakes, look how much those pinchers move. And then you add that with a wind-blown point or a nice current running through the water, the fish can't resist it. And that was the reason for my success during the tournament with the Bassmaster Weekend Series. Again, I'm Bill Allison with Culprit Lures and X Factor Lures. I hope this video helps you out. Thank you for watching.